Hello, friends, and welcome to Take Two for this Wednesday, the 1st of June. My goodness, we're already in June 2022. I'm Jeannie. I'm so glad you've decided to come along for the ride on this hump day. Well, this past weekend, actually Monday, we honored the fallen by commemorating Memorial Day. Memorial Day is a very, very significant and important day for us to all, as Americans particularly, remember because we are honoring those who have given their lives in service for our country, particularly. Now, whether that's in the military or also sometimes we remember those who work in some kind of service field, like for example, on 9/11, the firefighters and police officers and all those essential workers, or even more recently through the COVID pandemic, what we had to go through with so many doctors and nurses and medical professionals and people who were just laying their lives on the line every day. Those are the kind of people that we want to remember. Something like Memorial Day has a greater significance, I think, when you're particularly not just remembering things as a blanket remembrance, because that's important too, please don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of times it has a deeper significance individually to us when we can relate to someone we know, perhaps, who has died in service, maybe a soldier who's been in Iraq or World War II or the Korean War or any of those, Desert Storm, any of those conflicts where Vietnam, where they may have lost their lives that way or been maimed and hurt, and I think it's important for us to remember that because it does give it a much more significant meaning. So please take some time, if you haven't done that already this past weekend. It was everywhere, of course, ceremonies and in the news and so on and so forth. Please do take that time to remember those who have given their lives in service. Now, also, I want to mention that I personally, my family, had a significant loss this past weekend as we said farewell to my cousin Janet, who passed away this weekend. And she just got in her chair to watch television, closed her eyes, and drifted off, and that was it. And she went peacefully. And I'm glad it was that way, without a significant amount of suffering and all of that, because trust me, she did enough of that with her illness that she suffered for many years. But she never complained, never said anything to even let on how ill she may have been feeling. And so to me, I have a very personal stake in this. She was a dear cousin who I loved very, very much. I've been communicating with other family members, particularly her siblings, I should say, her sister, who is my cousin also, who's very crushed by this. And it's going to be a big loss for us. Now, of course, we are grateful that she lived such a wonderful life, an exemplary life. She was never had a bad word to say about anybody, and she was just a terrific lady. And she was giving, loving, and generous just to a T. And I want to remember her. I want to take time to remember how wonderful my cousin Janet was. And so as you take time to remember maybe those who have died in the war or been through, given of their lives so deeply like that, also remember us and our family and in your prayers, because we are personally grieving the loss of this dear one. Don't ever forget the loved ones that have gone before you. Take that time, reflect on it. Now, I'm not saying that we should be in constant grief or anything like that. No, no, no. Of course, grief is another topic for another time, and there are many different ways to grieve, etc., etc. No, no, no. I'm just talking about remembering, and let it bring a smile to your face, maybe even a tear to your eye, to remember how wonderful these folks were in your life, whether it's somebody you just read about that you've never even met, maybe a great hero that you've heard about, or if it was somebody like a dear loved one like we are with Janet. I'm going to take this remaining time in these several weeks to be really, really concentrating on good memories. And while I grieve, that will be part of my grief process also, to remember her in a wonderful way, because Janet, you will be missed. You'll definitely be missed. Now, listen, just like Janet was and always was, go out and be a blessing to somebody today. You may end up being the only one who is. You know, I'll bet you there were times that Janet had a kind word to say to somebody or did a good deed for somebody, and she was the only one who did it that day. They'll never forget, and they may not even ever know what her name was or who she was, but it's always a good thing to be a blessing that way, okay? Now, listen, don't forget also to please subscribe to this YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. JeanneSigler. Hit the subscribe button, that notification bell. You'll be notified every time another Take Two is premiering. And also, don't forget to tune into my program, Through the Eyes of a New York Woman. You can hear that on ultimateoldiesradio.com every Saturday at 8 Central, 9 Eastern, AM and PM. And then again on Sunday at 4 Central, 5 Eastern on oldies700.com. That's oldies700.com. Tune in, and then immediately following on Sundays, you can hear Chef Michael on the road. All right, I love you all very much. And remember, please pray for our family, because this is a little bit of a challenging time. But one thing I do know, Janet was a blessing, and she will always, in my heart, be remembered. I love you. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.